Welcome to MeDeMAP, Mapping Media for Future Democracies. Join us on a journey across Europe. Meet specialists and researchers from various fields, unravel the democratic functions of media, and discuss its impact on the essence of democracy. MeDeMAP.
Hi, my name is Ana Oliveira and welcome to another episode of our podcast, MeDeMAP, Mapping Media for Future Democracies. Today we have with us Bankica Petković. Brankica is a researcher at the Peace Institute based in Ljubljana, Slovenia. She has coordinated different comparative research projects on media systems in Eastern and South Europe. She has also collaborated in the European policy research, including studies on indicators for media pluralism, independence of audiovisual media regulatory bodies, on women in the media, sustainability, media plurality, and diversity online. So Brankica, thank you once again for joining us for another episode. And I would like to start by asking you a bit more about your host institution, the Peace Institute. So the Peace Institute, it emphasizes critical thought and principles such as equality, human rights, and the rule of law. And I would start by asking you, how do these values influence the Institute's research and advocacy on media pluralism and media integrity?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me in this podcast, and welcome at the Peace Institute in Ljubljana. It is an honor to host you here after working for more than a year together in the MeDeMAP project. The Peace Institute, as the name is saying, was established in 1991 at the point of separation, unfortunately violent separation of former Yugoslavia, and it was part of the efforts of young intellectuals at that point in Slovenia trying to promote peace resolution. And since then, this institute has been renamed in the Institute for Contemporary Social and Political Studies, largely developed as a scientific research institute in these fields, but also from the very beginning integrating scientific research with advocacy and activism. This is what is specific for this institution. We are sitting in the library, which operates as a niche public library for students of political and social studies. And we are very much known in Slovenia and in our European partnerships exactly for not stopping after concluding research or even during this research, using the finding, using the knowledge in making efforts for more just, a more democratic society. So our researchers appear as a kind of public advocates, and myself as a kind of media freedom defender, along with doing this kind of research. So we understand and why the media studies are part of our portfolio, because we find it crucial for these values of a just society. So we also, when we were thinking about keeping the name of the Peace Institute, it is a private non-profit research institute. It is that we don't understand peace as an absence of war, but peace as a presence of human rights, justice, equality in the society, and preserving it. That is, and then the media are here important in protecting the rights, communication rights of citizens, and equality and justice and democracy in the country. This is where from we go into the media research, not just being purely interested in the subject, but in this broader sense of interest of building society based on equality, human rights, and justice.
And now that you mention all these values, the MeDeMAP project is also about these values, right? And can you share some of the early findings or key trends that you've observed in media regulation, media supply, and media use specifically in Slovenia, and how they affect media pluralism and diversity in the country?
So my background is, as I illustrated this, and my interest in the media comes exactly from the point of building democratic equal society. And this project, MeDeMAP, is, as you said, just about it, connecting both. And particularly interesting in our joint project is emphasize on participation of citizens in democracy and in the media. And we have been building this research in the project now for more than a year in various work packages. So one was about regulation, and here in Slovenia we can say that we do have quite developed but still very complicated and at the end inefficient media regulation, more than 5 laws. And it's quite difficult probably for these post-socialist countries, which in a way to establish this new freedom of media and so on, is quite how to decisive in doing it by establishing rules. But as I said, there is general media law, specific media laws for public broadcaster, press agency, and so on. But they are contain quite interesting provisions for protecting access of journalists to public information, on protection of giving them the protection of their sources of information, on even what is very interesting in the field of regulation, the journalists are protected also against disclosing secret information, confidential information, if they are in public interest. But still, what is very important about the regulation is that for it, not only in Slovenia, to function, you need a proper regulatory bodies to implement it. And here we are weak. We don't have a strong regulatory bodies, independent and efficient, to make this huge regulation work. So that is the conclusion we made, that we do have a lot of provisions. Many of them are even better than in more developed media and democracy systems, but they don't work. That is in the media regulation. Then in the media supply, that is another body of research still ongoing in our project. We have mapped media supply entities, meaning media outlets, and a conclusion here made is that we do have in Slovenia a huge and diverse media landscape of public, commercial, non-profit media outlets. Still the concentration is high, and that is go together with the overall situation in Europe. Media concentration is the area where it is obvious that not only we in such a small country, small media market, where it is more likely that some media companies will dominate, but it is overall problem in Europe, this concentration of media supply in small number of actors. What is also significant for Slovenia is in media supply side that we have quite strong public service broadcaster, still having quite good reputation, but constantly under attack, particularly when right-wing groups are in power, trying to diminish the independence in various ways. And at the moment, at the point of our report on media supply, there is a more liberal group in power, changing the governing system of the public broadcaster, allowing more independent representatives to govern, not any more political party representatives. to govern public broadcasters. So independence is in that way increasing, but financial control is still by the government in terms that license fee is paid by citizens, which is quite democratic model. For instance, some more traditional democracies like France kill this participation of citizens in funding the financing the and you have it in Portugal also, this license fee. We do have it. It works, and it makes the dominant source of funding of public broadcaster, but the level, the amount is controlled by the government and has not been changed for more than a decade. By purpose, the government then have this financial control and restricting capacities of the program makers to develop properly. So, and then community media has also tradition here, not a wide range, but still we have a very important radio student, the oldest community radio in Europe, can you imagine, is this in this small country, and the non-profit fact-checking investigative portal. This is a kind of types of media that are flourishing, but then on business side, there are groups that dominate. And this is then, as we know, the business model for news media is collapsing, and that is a huge threat here also. On media use side, we have developed focus groups with citizens discussing how they understand media and democracy in Slovenia and what media do they use. They are highly critical and they don't trust in independence of media largely. They question it, but still they're still using it. In even younger people, not massively, but they are aware of public broadcasters. They go there for when they're in need of independent information, pre-election campaign and so on. People in Slovenia through focus group also express the habit that they use when they cannot resolve some community issue. They go to the media, to journalists, to explore the subject further and lead it to a certain solution. This is still obviously a kind of society where that relations with the media works at least to a certain degree. So this is the, how to say, snapshot of where we are now. All of the research supply use is still ongoing, and we are to see at the end a complete analysis.
It's a complex scenario that you are describing, and I would like to go a bit more into this idea of media pluralism, and this can be challenging, right? And you have been researching this for a long time already. So how would you define media pluralism in the context of European democracies, and particularly in Slovenia? And how do you see as the key threats to it?
So I was involved in developing media pluralism indicators. So how to measure media pluralism? It was like in 2008, we were engaged, and I met at that point a colleague, Beata Klimkiewicz, who is part of our project now from the Krakow University. So long time ago, we were engaged by the European Commission, facing this, at that point it was Berlusconi in Italy, as a model of ownership, private ownership, dominant commercial media owner, controlling in the position of the president of the government, also public broadcaster, and how to resolve it. And since then, this problem has been growing. It's not anymore Italy only. It's all around, this high concentration of ownership. But the media pluralism is not only about market pluralism. It's very important. But we at that point also develop indicators in the field of political pluralism, how it is reflected, and this political independence of the media, not only this market side, which is concentration of economic actors and owners, but also plurality of political groups and voices and independence from them in among the media in the media landscape, and then geographical pluralism reflected in the media, how much regional, local news are presented and citizens having access to them, and then cultural pluralism, how much these different cultural groups are reflected in the media landscape, in the news services, and how much they have. Not only media pluralism is not only on the use side, that you have access to various voices and representation of various political, cultural, geographical groups, but also ability to present, to participate, so that you can be part of the media system. You know, that you can, as a belonging to certain political view or cultural group or so on, that you are able to establish media and participate in the media system. That is media pluralism about. Often we also define it as an external, so how much it is possible to have various entities serving communication needs of citizens, but also internal, how much there are within certain media different voices, internal pluralism, so that within the same media, if you follow one, that you can hear various voices and point of views, that because people should be offered possibility to explore various titles and also types of media, TV, online, radio. But if they are exposed to smaller groups, still to have access to various views. And we here put a lot of emphasis after long research into methodologies, how to define and measure media pluralism in order to see how our democracy works. We have concluded that it is of particular importance to develop and protect and improve public service type of media along those non-profit, which are more likely to serve this interest in serving human rights and public interest, while market media, market entities are more likely to serve their economic benefits. Although, obviously, by regulation, they should be obliged to certain obligations in terms of protection of freedom of expression, limitation of concentration, and so on. So public service media has become my point of interest, and also my point of advocacy, where you largely, all of us, we are particularly interested in public service model of production, governing, funding, very much then engage also in advocacy, in defending, because what has been for decades now present all around Europe and on European level and EU level is efforts of commercial entities to diminish, if not even close, public media, or to interpret it that public service content appear all around, including in commercial media, which is partly true, but then public service media are also required to have a lot of other things, including the structure of governing, which is where public is controlling also how the program obligations are implemented, how funding is, transparency is provided, and so on. So this is where I end up usually talking about media, starting to talk about media pluralism, and then ending with talking about public service media as a crucial here, I would say.
And so, from what you have been explaining to us, there is a really close link between this idea of pluralism and diversity. You've mentioned a few times this diversity of voices, of products for citizens to consume, and I would like to delve a bit more into this. So, in your view, and considering the role you have been playing in this MeDeMAP project, and also considering the work you have been conducting at the Peace Institute, how well is the media sector in Europe currently reflecting the cultural and social diversity of its population?
I think it's difficult to say in one sentence, but if I look into Slovenia as a how to say illustration, and it's not far away from the overall situation in Europe, where diversity, particularly of minority groups, when we talk about diversity, it's mostly about how needs of minorities are served. Majorities, particularly ethnic majorities, they're most often served well by the very national state, taking care, and all media system, including made to serve the dominant nation, communication needs, social needs, and so on. The special attention also in regulation and in the research is then for these minorities to be reflected and their communication needs to be served, how to make it. And as I said, in Slovenia, in our old continent, there are various models of protecting minorities and their participation in media system. It's not the same. It's never regulated, has never been regulated and protected on European level with certain law, because it is cultural sphere where European Union is not interfering. It's on national state to regulate it. And there are different models. There are EU countries which have certain model of minority protection and others different. In this country, what I want to say, traditional minorities are better protected. In Slovenia, there are around 10% of population having origin in other parts of former Yugoslavia. That's huge. And almost have no news, they don't have news media specifically serving them and presenting their specific cultural expression and specific communication needs. There are some parts of it in community media and part of it in public broadcasting. But there are no separate entities, and there are no media system is not providing possibility in terms like it is for Italian and Hungarian. It needs money, it needs public funding, some kind of support. And that is what I want to say, that in Europe, cultural diversity is represented in the media, particularly in public service media and community media, but not to a necessary degree for this kind of new social new cultural groups, which are still called immigrants or new minorities. And we have now, for instance, all over Europe, with the war in Syria and in Middle East, in Asia, you have new groups coming, not being served at all. Many of them are journalists. Even in Slovenia, we do have, but they are now doing something else and have no chance to express themselves. There is no systemic solution for that. And I think that is very wrong, because we are not so poor in terms of states, and it doesn't look good for our democracy. It doesn't serve the society, because it cannot be ever good for majority to have such a marginalized group without opportunity to express, and being invisible in the media system. I think we do have problem here, although, as I said, we cannot say we don't have cultural diversity in the media. That's not true, but not to sufficient degree, and not serving sufficiently certain more new groups in our societies, if we can call new those who are for decades here.
Yeah, and listening to you talking about this cultural diversity and all these challenges, economic challenge, cultural challenge, and all that, I would like to pick up a discussion that we have been having recently, and also within this project that we are conducting, which is regarding the impact and the rise of digital platforms. And so I would like to ask you what you think, and how do you think the impact of these platforms is on media pluralism, and also if you see them as a threat or also as an opportunity for ensuring this diversity of voices that is so necessary across Europe?
Absolutely. This has obviously multiplying effects on media system and sustainability of news and professional journalism. In a way, it has a negative impact in affecting the traditional business model, how to sustain news media. There are huge cuts in journalist jobs in mainstream media, and that is definitely affected by the collapse of business model, because a lot of advertising income is absorbed by these digital platforms, and this is the negative side, certainly, where I also say this issue of disinformation, that is our hate speech, that is often also problematized with purpose, how these digital platforms has contributing without properly moderating and investing into proper system of moderation of the content, or even worse, they establish such models of operation and algorithms to monetize hate speech and disinformation. But this is the problem, because it goes in parallel with shrinking of journalists' jobs and the size of newsrooms, where I think more investment into employing professional journalists, educating them, and building more quality journalism all around will be by itself a fight against disinformation and so on. That what I'm describing are these negative consequences. On positive side, this is what I said with these invisible groups in the mainstream media sector, where they find opportunity to develop their blogs. Not to mention the repressive parts of Europe, like Turkey or in Serbia, where you have journalists that left the mainstream media because they were taken by the repressive regime there, and they established their own small media, and the dissemination side of model of their news stories is completely dependent on digital platforms. And this is the way how they can reach out to citizens without that. But what is the problem? This is again why this is the opportunity. Digital platforms offer them a space to be independent in their journalism, but they're not independent in their dissemination, because as a founder and a very brave and reputable investigative journalist in Serbia said for his online portal, he even wrote a letter to Zuckerberg saying, "You are destroying my media," because there was a change in Facebook, how this type of content will be categorized and will not be disseminated automatically to the Facebook community. So look how much and this type of media are dependent on Facebook just changing some rules and in destroy these independent voices which found how to say refuge, the place for them in these digital platforms. Or you have in Turkey journalists that had to escape Turkey to save their freedom and life, and they operate their Twitter accounts having millions of followers, and they are in a kind media outlets themselves, disseminating every day or their views, their stories, and so on. So these are positive sides. We cannot say that these are not, but still they're very much dependent on the very powerful owners of these digital platforms. What would happen if these voices would be served better without the platforms? We will never know. But we obviously owe also as researchers and kind of advocates of new solutions, new policy solutions, also some models, to propose some models how to protect these voices, give them the space not to be, not to sell their souls to another, not maybe autocrat in political terms, but autocrat in business terms, these big owners who can overnight decide how the platform will work. Another point about digital platforms is the regulation. From the very beginning, it was the trust that only deregulated internet will function, and this is the way how freedom of expression is working. And then even in my region, until recently, in these countries of Western Balkans, where they face problems with democracy and often repressive groups are ruling there, they always try to stop ideas about regulating on national level also online media, being afraid that this refuge where they can escape this repressive regime will be also misused by the governments when they regulate it. And so this prolongation of attempts to regulate the internet and to regulate platforms took so long that now it's very difficult. We do have finally European Union as a leader in attempting to regulate this, but still it's to be seen whether it will work. Because this Digital Services Act and so on, it goes very much now also in the type of content regulation, requiring from very large platforms various kind of obligations to meet.
So can we say it is about the reconfiguration of a series of roles that are engaged in these media systems?
Absolutely, it is about reconfiguration, but what we should, I think, engage in is to advocate and provide some proposals for reconfiguration to go in the way of protecting professional journalism, and protecting public interest. How to do that is obviously the question. And here we come with the expectations from holders of political power to establish regulation, to develop, allow independent regulators and bodies to develop, allow public media to develop independently, allow to market entities to develop, but introducing certain obligations for them, and so on. So the question is whether we have such political imagination and responsible, accountable holders. At this historical point, when we look around in Europe and in my country, where we do have government that promise to do that, reconfiguration to serve public interest in the media. We are now in the third year of their governing this country without meeting these promises. They have been preparing media law to reform, to reconfigure, but it's not yet in the parliament at all. So that is the problem here, that we have these very large platforms, digital platforms, growing, and on the other side, nation states or even European Union having to develop such political configuration to cope it with. And we are here as MeDeMAP and similar projects and people from science, from civil society to push them. Often we give them also some proposals, some models, and so on. But then now I think it is the biggest challenge on our project. We are obviously not to change everything, but one of us, those in the scientific configuration that should find, whatever we have in our brains, and in our research, to develop certain models and then to advocate for it, and then to request from political decision makers to implement those, and to build partnership with pressure groups, which are mainly, I would say, our citizens. I always say, because as you said at the beginning, my main most years of my research were oriented into the Western Balkans within this enlargement process, a lot of research in this field, and then EU level, And then I, particularly when I am in Western Balkans, I say to my colleagues, we should, and we come to media literacy subject, we should educate our citizens, empower them to understand that they should not vote for those parties that do not support media freedom, media pluralism, and reconfiguration of our media systems in a way to limit influence of these powerful entities, including themselves as a powerful political players. But usually it not the case, because very often people vote for powerful personalities, which are very often not in love with media freedom and media pluralism.
Thank you very much, Brankica, for being with us today and for lifting a bit more the veil about the work that we are conducting within this project. And thank you to you too for being with us once again.